What's up guys, welcome back. Now in this video we're going to be discussing the huge topic at hand today, which is very exciting and crazy to think about, but Retro Studios' new game entitled Star Fox Grand Prix.
It shock you?
Nothing shocks me. I'm a scientist.
Now of course this is a rumor right now, but it is being backed up by Kotaku, Eurogamer, Game Informer. All the major websites are reporting on it, saying that this is what they are hearing, that this is a brand new game by Retro Studios in the Star Fox universe, and it is going to be similar to a Diddy Kong Racing type of experience where you have a story mode, you have racing involved in it, you have multiple different characters, different paths, kind of like in a 3D platformer but in a racing style format. If you haven't played Diddy Kong Racing, I suggest you go check that game out. It's a great game developed by Rare back in 1997-98 time frame, released on the N64, but basically you're racing these carts or flying vehicles in that game, and you would unlock different levels and multiple paths, and it wouldn't all just be like 5 races and you unlock the next one, 5 races, unlock the next one. No, it was one race, maybe unlock a different world or area somewhere else, go and drive to that and get a key and open this door and go in there and race in there, and then unlock another area in the game. It was very much like a 3D platformer type of layout, but in a racing style gameplay. It was a very new and cool experience back then. And here we have this rumor that Retro Studios is going to be doing that with Star Fox. Now, quite honestly, in my opinion, Star Fox has sucked. Let's just be honest. Star Fox hasn't been great. In fact, it hasn't been good for quite a while. I think the last good game that they released was Star Fox Assault, and even that game was criticized by many people. Some people didn't like it at all, some people thought it was amazing, and some people thought it was just good or okay. I thought it was a good game personally, but it wasn't a great game. Star Fox Assault on the Nintendo GameCube in 2005. The last great, outstanding Star Fox game, in my opinion, was released 21 years ago on the N64. Of course, that would be Star Fox 64. That was the last great Star Fox game, in my opinion, that is. If you thought Star Fox Assault was fantastic, that is totally fine and you're entitled to your opinion, but in my opinion, I think it's been over 20 years since we had a great, fantastic Star Fox game. And we know Star Fox Zero was plagued by the gamepad, having you look at 2 screens at once, which was impossible in a game like that. Just horribly executed. Not a very good game. I didn't like it personally. I just know if they had regular controls for that game, it would have been so much better, but sadly, it was not. So no, that game was not good in my opinion, and we haven't had a great game in Star Fox for quite a long time. The series, quite frankly, is in jeopardy of being put to pasture, basically laid to rest. And now here we have this development floating around now of Star Fox being developed by Retro Studios. Retro Studios is one of my favorite developers of all time. Metroid Prime, Metroid Prime 2, Metroid Prime 3, Donkey Kong Country Returns, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. But if you recall, the big one was Metroid Prime #1. The first one they made was the huge effort that everyone was so scared about, because when people heard that Metroid Prime was going into first person mode and it was being handed over to somebody who hasn't done really Nintendo before in Retro Studios, there was a lot of gamers extremely worried about that game, and it turned out to be absolutely amazing. Now granted, here we have Star Fox, a series that is on the downside, not very popular anymore, and the last game was, quite frankly, a dud. It wasn't good. So the question is, can Retro Studios make Star Fox good again? Can they bring new excitement into Star Fox if they were given this project, if this rumor does turn out to be true? I think they can, but I do have some concerns about this project and the rumor because of the type of game that it is. There's just a lot of room for error here that could happen if they're not careful, and obviously Nintendo's going to be watching them extremely closely if this is the case and the game does come to release. Star Fox was originally a rail shooter game on the SNES and a rail shooter game on the N64 with some open world elements to it in all range mode where you could fly your ship around in 360 degrees. Now that is where the series has always been the best at. It's been a shooter and mainly a shooter only, and that's where the greatest games of the series have come from. Now to put it in the racing genre in the Star Fox universe, with a story mode put in it, that would be a huge concern for Star Fox fans, right? Because you would want a shooter game, because with the history of the series, the best games, as we said, have been in the shooter genre. So putting it into the racing genre and in a Diddy Kong racing type of fashion with the story and all that kind of stuff, that is a huge risk, and that is why a lot of people are really worried about this and expressing their concerns online. I've seen a lot of people just say, hey, why don't you just release a brand new F-Zero game? That would be way better, right? And I tend to agree to a certain extent because I want a new F-Zero game so badly. I really want a new GX type of racing game. Or just re-release the game, please, Nintendo in HD, and I'll buy it right away. I want a new F-Zero game, and I want it badly, but that's another story. But putting that emphasis on Star Fox, man, that is a huge risk. There's all kinds of things that could go wrong with an experience like that if things are not balanced correctly. When you have something that's focused on racing, but then focused on story and focusing on branching paths, that is quite a huge undertaking that, granted, Retro Studios can do, but they need to do this perfectly, really. They need to knock this out of the park, and the expectations are so high for this game, if this comes to be true, that it's going to be really difficult for them to live up to those type of expectations. So a lot of people are worried, myself included, that this may not live up to the hype if they do go this route with Star Fox in Star Fox Grand Prix. But you know, I'm looking at their list of games they've released in the past, and Retro Studios has not released a bad game yet. The games they've released is Metroid Prime 1, 2, and 3, Metroid Prime Trilogy, Donkey Kong Country Returns, Mario Kart 7, which they co-developed for, Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D and the 3DS, and Tropical Freeze. They have not released a bad game yet. All their games they have released have been great games. So I'm not going to put that against them and say, hey, this is going to be a bad game if they do it. But of course, there is some concern that there could be some issues with it going forward. It's kind of like putting Naughty Dog out there and saying, hey, great work on Uncharted 4. You guys did fantastic, but now we want you to go make the next Wipeout game for PlayStation. Now go. You know, that's the kind of feeling I got when I heard about this rumored game, Star Fox Grand Prix for Retro Studios. It's like, do you really want them to go that route? Or do you want them to stick with something they're more familiar with? Maybe a full 3D adventure type of game, maybe in the third person this time, something they're more familiar with developing for their first game they've released in 5 years, because it's been quite a long time. For them to go this route is definitely concerning. So there is a possibility, I know you don't want to believe it, but there is a possibility that Retro Studios is not the developer to use for a game like this, even though this is the rumored game that they're developing, right? And yes, like we said, they co-developed Mario Kart 7 on the 3DS, so they do have some experience. You know, we don't know exactly everything they did with that game, but hey, they do have some experience in a racing type of environment. So yeah, they definitely can do it. I'm not saying they can't do a game like this, but is this the game that is best suited for their talents? That's the question. Now, personally, what do I think about a game like this? I would buy it, to be honest with you. I love Star Fox, I like the universe, I like the characters, and I would definitely buy a game like this because I do think Star Fox needs something to turn itself on its head to get the series going in a nice, positive direction, and hopefully this would be something that could do that if it's done just right. It has to be done really well, obviously, and be very impressive to get people on board with Star Fox again. What they did with Star Fox Zero didn't work, and people really didn't like that game. And granted, even though I would prefer a shooter over a racing game, I do recognize the need for Star Fox to be fresh again and to renew the interest in the characters and even in the story. Hopefully they have a really nice story with this, and it's different than just the typical, oh, Andros is coming again to attack Corneria, Fox's father is dead, and he's going to go find out about what happened to his father yet again, and all this rehashing stuff. I mean, the story in Star Fox Zero was just terrible. Just a rehash and retelling of Star Fox 64. I thought that was really bad. They could do a much better job on that. So this is an extremely hot topic. I know there's fans out there that are really excited for this game, and I know there's fans out there that don't want to see this game at all. They want to see it burned. They don't want it to exist. They want Retro to make something completely different. And I see both sides of that with Retro. But for the game itself, I would personally buy it. I think it sounds fun. As far as Retro Studios being the ones to make the game, I'm not sure if that's the right call or not, but obviously they're a great developer and they could make the game good. Their resume proves it with all the games they've released thus far. They're all great, fantastic games. So please leave a lot of comments. Let me know what you think about this rumored game in development by Retro Studios, Star Fox Grand Prix for the Nintendo Switch. And again, thanks so much for watching, guys, and supporting the channel. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, subscribe for more, and do follow me on Twitter, and I'll talk to you very soon in the next video. Have a great day.